Hey, listen. Think about this, y'all. If the apocalypse were to happen, I would want to be a blacksmith. You know what?
You could make gardening tools to keep everybody up to par on their gardens.
That's one, right?
Self-sufficiency.
You can make parts for vehicles.
Well, true. I was thinking like weapons or protection of some kind, you know. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. That's a skill, you know. You'd be valuable.
Are you assholes drunk?
Hey y'all, it's Brandon Voodoo Forge, and I've got an interesting topic for you today. And that is being a blacksmith during the apocalypse. Or the SHTF, or the Armageddon, or the fall of civilization, or whatever you want to call it. What's that other one? Tiawakatukataka, or something like that. Okay, I don't know if this is every career path in the world, but if you're a blacksmith, one of the most common things that people will say to you is, man, that'll be handy at the end of the world during the apocalypse when the shit hits the fan. I mean, I don't know if people, come up to bus drivers and say that, or accountants, or what, but that is like in the top 5 things that people say to me when they find out that I'm a blacksmith. Actually, I'd say it's number 3. It's right behind, do you make knives and do you watch that show? And then people say, boy, that would be great during the apocalypse. And yeah, so I put some thought into it. I mean, enough people have said something to me, and I'm going to share my thoughts with you. Now, I'm not Nostradamus. I can't predict the future. I don't know if and when the world is going to end, but I did a little research on some things that realistically could end the world, and then some of the things people ask me about. Now, the number 1 thing on the list, the little research I did, was nuclear, biological, and chemical war. And if that occurred, that could be world ending. That could be apocalyptic. And during right in the middle of a nuclear, biological, or chemical war, I can't think of a lot of advantages to being a blacksmith. I mean, that's just me. Drought, food shortage, weather changes. That's another likely apocalyptic event. And if there's no food and there's no water, once again, I don't really see any advantages to being able to make things out of steel and iron. You probably noticed that I'm having to edit back into the spot because I said some words that you can't say on YouTube or your video gets blocked, but a sickness, an illness, a worldwide one. And once again, like bubonic plague, the Black Death, all that, I don't really know what advantage there would be to being a blacksmith. Another likely cause of the end of the world would be an asteroid. If stuff is falling out of space, there's not a lot of advantage to being a blacksmith. A super volcano. Once again, oh, we go throw my handle in it or something. And then another, this is actually on several lists I looked up, a likely cause of the end of the world would be artificial intelligence. Like Terminators. And Well, I feel like I'm a pretty tough guy. I don't feel like there's a lot I could do about Terminators. But that leads us into another realm, which is a lot of people who ask me this question immediately go into scenarios from movies and television programs. And so I'll give you my thoughts on those in a minute. Of course, there's also religious beliefs, the rapture, or Jesus coming back, whatever. Once again, not really sure what a blacksmith benefits could be in that situation. Okay, so talking about some of the, more, to me anyway, realistic events, like economic collapse or economic downfall, downtimes, things like that. That could be considered apocalyptic, depending on how far it goes. And while, I wouldn't say that a blacksmith is specially equipped to handle a situation like that, I will say that anybody who can work with their hands and make things and fix things is definitely in a better place in a situation to where new things and replacement parts are not available or as readily available, or the money to purchase them is not available. And we've seen a little bit of that fairly recently with the massive shortage from all the plants being shut down from the event of 2020, which must not be named, from all the factories and things shutting down. There are a lot of my neighbors and friends who are farmers and things, and they can't get replacement equipment or the parts to work on their farm equipment. So in the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot of repair work on things, a lot of welding, a lot of making parts for things. And so in a situation like that, yeah, it could definitely be a benefit. We haven't quite got to the level where I'm having to make garden hose for everybody to start a garden in their backyard, but being able to fix equipment and tools and things in an economic type collapse is definitely a benefit. And like I said, I'd say that that's applicable to anybody that works with their hands. If you can fix and make things, you're always going to be useful. Another thing people have asked me about is an electromagnetic pulse or a solar flare. And please keep in mind, I am not a scientist. That should be pretty obvious to you at this point. But anyway, it's my understanding that what this is there's something happens in the atmosphere. It could be caused by a solar flare from the sun, or it could be from a nuclear blast detonated at a certain height in the atmosphere, and it destroys everything electric that's not protected in some kind of Faraday cage, like grounded out. Oh, I don't really understand it. But, cars with electronic injection and radios and televisions and cell phones and computers and everything electric. I don't know if that's like, toasters from the 40s or not. I don't understand exactly what all it would get. But apparently, if this happens, it knocks out the entire power grid forever, and there aren't enough new transformers to go on and fix it, so the power would be down for an undetermined amount of time. And the same places where I'm looking this up are also saying, and I don't, I can't, you wouldn't want me to testify to any of this, but according to what I looked up, if we lost power in, say, the United States within a matter of a couple of months, like 70 or 80% of the population would be dead. I'm assuming a lot of that is due to refrigeration and how much we depend on that for our food and feeding ourselves. That's just an assumption. Now, a situation like that, I've had people, something like that happen. We'll be forming communities and boy, the blacksmith will be important. You know, if 70 or 80% of the population is gonna die, I don't think me being able to fix or make things is going to be that important, because it seems like there will be a lot of extra stuff out there. You know, I won't need to make a knife because, 8 out of 10 houses will have a completely open knife drawer in the kitchen. I'm going to have to make a shovel when 8 out of 10 houses have, 2 extra shovels in the garage. So, in a situation to where the majority of the population dies, whether it's caused by an electromagnetic pulse or a Mexican beer, I don't really think crafting is going to be that important, because it's going to be a lot of extra stuff around. My opinion, could be wrong. Now, another realistic scenario is a war on your soil. And we've been able to see, plenty of modern wars in this century. And if you look at things going on in Syria and Libya and what's going on currently in Ukraine, blacksmiths and metalworkers have been at the forefront of these conflicts, wars. You see homemade armored vehicles. You see, the armor project that myself and others were working on in Ukraine. There was another project going on with blacksmiths where they were making like log dogs, is what we call them, with like pieces of rebar forged to a point on each end and bent 90 degrees to hold logs together to help build fortifications. And being able to build to make supplies in a time of war, active war, yeah, 100%. It would be a benefit to your society in general to be able to do that kind of thing in that situation. And that's, once again, that's no matter what it is you can make. If you can work with your hands, there's always going to be a need for you in that kind of situation. If all you can do is dig a hole, it looks like they need a lot of holes. So, yeah, I guess that would be a benefit in that situation. Now, moving into some of the more ridiculous, the science fiction inspired ones. Somebody will always be like, well, what about, and then they'll name the name of a movie, and, God, zombies. Somebody always brings up zombies. And, I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, I've had several grown-ass men bring up how useful it would be to be a blacksmith during a zombie apocalypse. I'm not, we're just going to skip over the fact that that's ridiculous, and we'll go into the lore from zombie movies and television shows that I have seen that seem to be agreed to across the board. From Night of the Living Dead to the Walking Dead. Dawn of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead, 28 Days Later, whatever, whichever one it is. Apparently making noise is bad. And I don't know what you actually know about blacksmithing, but there is not a damn thing that a blacksmith does that is quiet. Maybe drawing it out, that part's quiet. Everything else is noisy. And I know on that television program that became so repetitive, The Walking Dead, the one little silly town had the little blacksmith and his shop was right next to the wall and he's making spears. How good of a spear do you need to poke zombies in the head with? Why can't we just sharpen a stick? Why we gotta have steel pointed ones? Why can't, I don't know. I don't see a blacksmith being useful in the zombie apocalypse. I certainly do not see me being useful in a zombie apocalypse. If there's a zombie apocalypse and the dead start, rising from their graves and trying to eat me and my family and my children, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably going to start a clock and be done with it, because that's just I'm not putting up with that kind of nonsense. Okay, so that handles zombies. Another thing about the zombie thing is, once again, that's another situation to where, it seems like the majority of the people are gone, so there should be plenty of stuff out there to pick up. You shouldn't have to make a lot of stuff. This should be free. And that's the case with a lot of other apocalyptic movies, like, of course, food. Food is what they seem to run out of, and I can plant a garden, but that doesn't have anything to do with me being a blacksmith. But the movies where a blacksmith would be useful, the movie scenarios, would be like the ones where it's a post-apocalyptic society. Like, oh, heaven help us, Mad Max. It's a post-apocalyptic society. They have a little society. And you could have a blacksmith to make, your spikes for your collar and your points for your vehicles and, what not. The Book of Eli, that was a good example of a post-apocalyptic society where a blacksmith would be handy, because, with Tom Watts was the little electric guy, he had to charge up his battery for his iPod. Old Denzel Washington had to charge up his battery, and he took it into this guy, and he was going to put it on a trickle charge. See, like that, that town probably also had a blacksmith who maybe didn't focus on making things, but on fixing things, on repairing things, on doing services, which are what a lot of the, in the United States anyway, and well, all over the world. I don't know why I just said the United States, but a lot of the blacksmiths in smaller communities, that's what they traditionally did, was they repaired things. They weren't necessarily making new things every day as they were repairing things. And so in a society like that, you could see a blacksmith come into their own. And probably the best Hollywood example that I've seen of a society where they could use a blacksmith was it was a Kevin Costner movie, when Kevin Costner was like, it seemed like every year he came out with another 5-hour unwatchable movie, The Postman. Anyway, it wasn't real well received. I liked it. But it's a post-apocalypse. There's been a war, and apparently it advanced to a nuclear war, and so there's just been a big reset. And there's this one little community in particular, and it's very rural, and they're agricultural, and they have a blacksmith. You don't ever see him, but you can hear him. You can hear that tink, 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 and I'm like, I know what that noise is. In a situation, a scenario like that, yes, it would be good to be a blacksmith. So, I guess, to wrap it all up, there are some post-apocalyptic situations to where I feel it would be advantageous to be a blacksmith. I think you would be doing mostly repair work. You wouldn't necessarily be doing new production. There are some apocalyptic situations where I think you would be doing new production of things for a war effort. But like localized disasters, I don't really see a blacksmith being that useful. I mean, let's say there's a mudslide, you're not going to start making shovels, because somewhere else in the world they still have shovels. They can still send you shovels. So I don't think there's very many apocalyptic situations to where during the apocalyptic situation it'd be good to be a blacksmith. Whereas there are a lot of post-apocalyptic societal type situations to where being a blacksmith would be beneficial. Yeah, I'm going with that. Leave your comments and questions and whatnot down below. That's all I've got on. This is It's a strange subject. And I know it is a strange subject, but I've had so many people say this to me for so many years. I figured I'd hit it real quick. So, anyway, y'all behave yourselves.